Kaushik. Kaushik. Manusha. Vinisha. Manusha. Log in with your number, register number, rename it. Sare, చెప్పినా వినలేదు. Removing Manusha. Karthik Sri. Machanapare. Rename with your number, register number. Qasim Muhammad. Pranit. Made it Pranit. Rename with your number. Yeah, do not. No need to tell each and every time. Narendra. Madugula Narendra. Tajaful Arfa. Only 42. Why? Supposed to be there in time. Only 42. What, Likita? Shall we start?
Yes, sir.
We'll first year lab, 31st exam, like third month. Third, fourth, fifth. Is it correct, Likita? Third, fourth, fifth? Mid exam.
Third, fifth, eighth, and 10th, sir.
Third?
Fifth, eighth, and 10th.
Achha. When PP? Python programming, when?
Fifth, sir.
Sir, fifth.
Fifth?
Yes, sir.
Last, sir.
Last antaru, fifth antaru?
Not last, sir. Fifth, sir.
Second, sir.
Fifth. It is on fifth. Okay, right. So as you already aware of, in unit 1, you will be getting 2 questions. Unit 2, you are getting 2 questions. Unit 3, getting 1 question, right? So as I already mentioned to you, 2 marks and 3 marks. 2 marks from part B and 3 marks from part C. చెప్పానా లేదా? ఇన్ఫార్మ్ చేశాను కదా మీకు. మాట్లాడరేంది? నిన్న టెలిగ్రామ్ లో కూడా పెట్టినట్టున్నారు కదా?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Question paper pattern పెట్టారు.
అదే క్వశ్చన్ పేపర్ ప్యాటర్న్, క్వశ్చన్ పేపర్ కాదు. సో అన్ని సబ్జెక్ట్స్ కి అదే విధంగా వస్తాయి. సో ఏ బిట్ 2 marks, బి బిట్ 3 marks. ఏ బిట్ విల్ బి ఫ్రమ్ పార్ట్ బి అండ్ బి బిట్ విల్ బి ఫ్రమ్ క్రిటికల్ థింకింగ్ క్వశ్చన్, 3 marks.
సార్ మరి పార్టీ రాదా సార్?
పార్ట్ ఏ రాదు, చదువుకున్న దానికోసం అంత సింపుల్ క్వశ్చన్స్ కదా. అంటే పార్ట్ బిలో అవి కూడా కొంచెం ఏదన్నా ఉంటే కలవచ్చు, అర్థమవుతుందా? పార్ట్ బిలో పార్ట్ ఏ బిట్లో పార్ట్ ఏ క్వశ్చన్స్ కూడా ఇవ్వచ్చు. అంటే దాంట్లో కొద్దిగా ఇది కాంప్లెక్స్ ఉంది అనుకో, దీంట్లో ఇవ్వచ్చు అన్నమాట.
ఆఫ్లైన్ ఆన్లైనా సార్ ఎగ్జామ్స్?
తెలీదు, మీకు చెప్పలే.
చెప్పలేదు సార్ ఇంకా.
గవర్నమెంట్ ఏం డెసిషన్ తీసుకుంటుందో అప్ టు 30th, రేపటి వరకు కదా ఇచ్చింది. సో
Yes, sir.
మండే నుంచి అనేది మోస్ట్ ప్రాబబ్లీ ఆఫ్లైనే ఉండొచ్చు. ఎనీహౌ విల్ గెట్ ది ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ టుమారో, డెసిషన్ టేకెన్ బై ది గవర్నమెంట్. అప్ టు 30th వరకు కదా హాలిడేస్ డిక్లేర్ చేసింది గవర్నమెంట్ కూడా. 30th వరకు హాలిడేస్ డిక్లేర్ చేసింది, అంతే కదా.
అవును సార్.
మళ్ళా they have to take the decision. I think today or tomorrow they are going to take the decision. ఇంతేనా? only 47. వీకెండ్ అటెండెన్స్ అప్పుడే సాఫ్ట్వేర్ ఇంజనీర్స్ అయినట్లు ఫీలింగ్ అయిపోతాయి ఎట్లా? only 40. We will start, no need to wait. So I'm not going to admit who are coming after starting of class. Okay. Anybody else? Right. Shiva. Slides are moving. Naveen? No. Okay. Shiva. Error. Now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now in unit 3, so container data types. So within this container data type, module 3 will cover 4 types of container data types which are used in Python programming. One, list. Second one, tuple. Third, sets. And fourth, dictionary. So these are the 4 data types, container data types, which we are going to cover in unit 3. So in each container data type, so we are going to study about the definition of that particular container data type and how we are going to store the elements in that particular container data type, and how we are going to access that particular elements from that particular container data types, and what are the various operations which are performed on that particular container data types, and what are the methods which you are going to use in that particular container data types, and in addition to that, comprehension also. Right? Say for example, if you are going to take it within the syllabus, so you are having list for accessing the list elements, list operations, list methods, and list comprehension, which are going to study on list. Tuples, access, same thing, accessing the tuple elements, operations performed on tuples, methods used in tuples, tuple comprehension, then conversion of list to tuple. Conversion of list to tuple. Why it has to be converted from list to tuple? Anybody can answer? Conversion of list to tuple. Why it has to be converted from list to tuple?
To make it immutable.
Which one is immutable and which one is mutable?
Mutable is list, sir. Tuple is
Yes,
immutable.
right. Tuple is so immutable. So that's why that it has to be get converted from. Okay, right. Next, iterators and iterables, zip function, which are going to use in tuples. Next, sets. So accessing the set elements, set operations which are performed on sets, and the methods or functions which are used on sets, and let set comprehension. Common thing which you are going to get in all these types are accessing, operations, methods, comprehension. All these four are common in four container data types. Next one is that is dictionary. Dictionary also accessing the dictionary elements, operations performed on dictionaries, methods or functions which are used on dictionary, nested dictionaries, and dictionary comprehensions. So in all four cases, four types of container data types, the common items which are going to study are creating that particular container data types, accessing the elements from that particular data types and container data types, operations which are performed on container data types, and the methods of functions used and comprehensions, right? These are the syllabus which you are going to cover. This is the syllabus which you are going to cover in unit 3. As far as outcomes is concerned, which you are going to study in module 3, CO3, where you are going to demonstrate indexing and slicing mechanism for extracting a portion of data in sequences. As you are already aware of, what are the different sequences which are used in Python programming? So what are the different data types? Data types used in Python programming. Different data types. 8 people are waiting in waiting room. As I already mentioned to you, if class started, I'm not going to allow. How many times I have to repeat? Okay. What are different data types in Python programming? How many data types are there? Vinisha,
5, sir.
5. What are they? అంటే అడిగితేనే చెప్తావు అన్నమాట. వినీషా అని అడిగితే అప్పుడు సమాధానం ఇస్తావు, లేకపోతే నాకెందుకు వచ్చిందని గమనించు. అంతేనా? Speak out. What are the 5 data types? What are they? 5 అనేది చెప్పావు. What are they? ఏం మాట్లాడదు? వర్షిత్
Sir,
చెప్పు. వినిషా.
numbers,
నంబర్స్,
none,
నన్,
sequence,
సీక్వెన్స్,
set,
సెట్.
mapping.
ఓకే. మ్యాపింగ్ అయితే మామూలు అప్పుడు 6 అయిపోలే కాదా? 5 ఏనా? ఓకే.
sir.
నంబర్స్, నన్,
Sequence,
సీక్వెన్స్,
set,
సెట్స్,
mapping.
మ్యాపింగ్. ఓకే, రైట్. క్లాసిఫై.
Numbers are classified into 3 types: integers, floating points, complex.
Okay. Next, none mean when you are going to use none?
None,
Nothing.
deleting a variable.
None. So whenever you are assigning that particular identifier with none, you will be using none. Okay, right. Next.
Sequence are of 3 types: string, tuple, list.
String, tuple, list are of called as sequences. Right. Next.
Sets.
Sets.
In mapping, dictionary.
mapping dictionary. So these are the five data types which are going to use in case of Python programming, right? So here in case of unit 3, we are going to demonstrate the operations such as indexing and slicing operations which are going to perform in extracting the portion of data in sequences, especially in case of strings. Then tuple, here you are not covering the strings. That's what actually I meant. I said. So unit 3, unit 4 should be covered before unit 3. So that too in unit 4, first you have to study about the functions and then strings. Then you have to study about this container data types and then objects, that is object oriented concepts. So anyhow, as per syllabus, we have to cover, no? So I will proceed with that. I'm not any problem at all. So next CO4 is we are going to make use of, that is native data types like list, set, tuple, and dictionaries. Use them in data processing applications. How we are going to use, and we are going to compare and see the similarities and differences between mutable and immutable objects, and understand the state of change of that particular object during the runtime environment. So POs, which are POs, we are having 12 POs and 3 PSOs, and which are mapping within this particular unit is the PO1, PO3, PSO1. These are the 3 which are going to map, and this are that we are going to map with that one, right? So now let's go in detail about the contents which are covered in unit 3. Now the container, the title of the unit is container data types, right? So what is meant by container? Actually, what is container? So here the container is an entity. Container is an entity which contains multiple data items. So container is an entity which contains multiple data items. That particular data item may be either an integer or a float value or a string or a character, or it can also be a, that is list that we are going to make use of it in that one. List is container is an entity which contains multiple data items. So container is a class or data structure, and the definition that you are going to give for the container is a class or data structure whose instances are collection of objects. What is an object? What is an object? Object is a real world entity. So which you are, that's what that we are given here is container is an entity which contains multiple data items. So container, that container may be a class or a data structure. What is meant by data structure? So arrangements of the data, both physically and logically, is known as a data structure. How you are going to arrange that particular objects. So whose instances are collection of objects. Definition of the class is set of objects, collection of objects. So instance of a class is object. So this container is a class or data structure whose instances are a collection of objects, which are going to, means container will contains the objects which are going to be get stored. Within this particular container, you are going to store the objects in an organized way. That's data structure, in an organized way. In an organized way that follows specific accessing rules. So it is going to be get these objects, whatever may be the objects which are present within that pattern, they will be arranged in a specific order. So whenever you are going to arrange that particular order, there you are going to make use of arrangement either in the linear fashion or in non-linear fashion. So if you are making use of, if you have been signing with so sequence, that is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so on and so forth, then it is called as linear. If I am going to make it, if it is not present in sequence, then it will be called as non-linear. So the definition for the container that you are going to give is, so here the containers are used in different types of languages. Containers are used in C++ language and Java. Then we are going to make use of even in case of Python programming also you are going to use. So the container definition that you are going to give is an entity which contains multiple data items. That particular data items may be so present, which may be of these data items which are present. That particular data items may be of homogeneous or heterogeneous. So homogeneous in the sense the data items may be of a similar type, or heterogeneous in the sense the data types may be of different types, combination of different types of data. So it is a class or data structure whose instances are collection of objects. Container stores the objects in an organized way that follow the specific rules whenever you are accessing it. What is meant by accessing means now you have created a particular container and you have stored the values, stored the objects within that particular container. Now you have to retrieve it. So retrieve that particular objects which are stored within that particular container. That retrieving mechanism is known as accessing. So that particular access which you are going to access it, there you are going to have different types of accessing mechanisms that you can make use of. Either it can be accessed in sequential fashion, or it can be accessed in a random fashion also, that it can be accessed, right? So this is the definition that you are going to give for the container, which are used in most of the languages, especially in case of object-oriented programming languages. So we are going to use this containers. So here the container data types or built-in containers. It's also called as built-in containers. So which are used in Python are, these are the four container data types which are used, most widely used in Python. What are the container data types or built-in containers which are used in Python are, these are the four. One, list, tuple, set, and dictionary. So these are the four container data types which are used in Python, or it's also called as built-in containers which are used in Python. So first one is that is, so which you have already studied in data types. So data types have been classified into 5. So within this 5, we are having numbers, then none, and then sequence. So within this sequence, so what are the data types which are going to cover in sequence? List and tuple. List and tuple which are going to be covered in sequence. Then set data type, that is sets, and mapping which will be of a dictionary. So these are the 4 container data types which are going to use in case of Python programming. It's also called as built-in containers. Now let's see the definition. Definition of list. As you already aware of, list is a data type. So here is a mutable sequence type. So that's why it comes under sequence. It comes under sequences. That's you are going to represent it as, whenever you are defining, a list is defined as a mutable sequence type. Mutable sequence. What is the meaning of mutable? Mutable means the elements which are present within that particular list can be changed as per your requirement. It can be changed. So such type of sequences are called as mutable sequence. So list is it comes under sequence data type, which will be of mutable. List is a mutable sequence type holding a collection of objects in a defined order. So you are going to have the defined order which you are going to be get made use of whenever your means. So holding the collection of objects within that particular container data types. So is a mutable sequence type holding a collection of objects in a defined order. So that particular order is indexed. What's it up? So here the list is defined. See, the definition of a list is a mutable sequence data type holding a collection of objects in defined order. That order is indexed by integers only. Say, for example, if you are going to take the list that it has been given, name of that particular list as a sample. So that consists of 10 elements. Then you are going to order, that is the collection of that particular objects, which has been ordered by the defined order, that which have been indexed by integers. By default, the index is going to be started with this 0. Index of 0, index of 1, index of 2, index of 3, so on and so forth up to index of n minus 1. If that particular list consists of n elements, it will be indexed by starting with 0 and end with n minus 1. So this is the definition that you are going to give for the list. List is the mutable sequence data type holding a collection of objects in a defined order. So these are indexed by integers, right? Next one, another type of container data type which are used in Python programming is tuple. So tuple is also a sequence data type, but which is of immutable, means whatever may be the elements which have been assigned or stored in tuple, it cannot be changed. So it cannot be changed. So such type of data type is going to be called as immutable. This also comes under the classification of sequence data types. So tuple is a immutable sequence type holding a collection of objects in a defined order. Here also they are going to be get organized in a particular order, so which are indexed by integer. So it's got by default the index is going to be get started with 0 and end with n minus element. So if tuple consists of n elements, then it will be indexed with 0 to n minus 1. That's the definition that you are going to give for tuple. Tuple is an immutable sequence type holding a collection of objects in a defined order indexed by integers. Next one is that is sets. Set is another container data type which are going to be sets comes under, that is an unordered. It is unordered collection of unique elements. What is meant by unordered? Unordered collection of unique elements. So what is the meaning of unique elements? So here in case of list, so duplication is allowed. So duplication of the data items is allowed. So in case of list, and so even in case of tuple, duplication of the data items are allowed. So but the difference is in both the cases the elements can be, so identifiers are the key elements which are present, or the items, data items which are present within the list, you can duplicate the elements. So here also tuple, the duplicate elements can be duplicated, but so here is mutable, list is mutable. You can change the elements which are present or the data items which are present. So tuple, it is immutable. So the elements which are, but in case of set is an unordered collection of unique elements. No duplication is allowed. So duplications are not allowed in case of set, and is an unordered collection. What is meant by meaning of unordered collection? I think I have already discussed. So in unit 1, so whenever whenever you are getting the results of a particular set, so all the elements are going to be get displayed, but it not in order. So whenever you are displaying the elements which are present within the sets are displayed, but not in order. But all the elements which are present within the set are covered. So that's what that is called as unordered collection of unique elements. Whenever all the elements, whenever you are retrieving or making use of that particular, displaying the elements which are present within that particular set, all the elements will be displayed, but not in the specific order. Specific order they are going to be get displayed, but all the elements are going to be get displayed with unordered sets, which you have already seen with the by taking some examples when we are dealing with the data types in case of sets, right? Here these are going to be get accessed through set operations. With the help of set operations only you are going to access that particular elements, right? So here they are going to be get access with the indexing of that one. Index values in case of lists and tuples, you are going to access the elements by using the indexes. That particular indexes will be only of integers. It will not be of float type. So index of 0, list of 0, list of 1, list of 2, list of 3, so on and so forth, list of n, tuple of 0, tuple of 1, so n minus 1. So a set is an unordered collection of unique elements accessed through set operations, right? That's the definition that we are going to give for the another container type of data types which are going to use in Python. Next one is, that is fourth type of container data type is dictionary. So which comes under the data types of mapping. B9 do. So now he is in waiting room. So repeatedly I am informing the things and you are doing the same thing. So from the next class onwards, I will not allow after 5 minutes. Keep it in mind. So Likita and Naveen, inform to all your friends.
Yes,
If
sir.
they are interested, let them join.
Yes, sir.
Let them join at the beginning itself. If not interested, means let them not join, right? Don't intervene in between the classes. Inform all of your friends, right?
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
So dictionary is another container data type which you are going to use. So as you already aware of, dictionary comes under the mapping. That means data types which you are going to have. So here the definition that you are going to give for the dictionary is a mapping type, is a mapping data type. So here associating keys to values. So associating to keys to values. Now here, if you are going to take here this associating keys. So this container data types, actually speaking, that we are going to take this container data types have been classified into two. One which will consist of single valued container data types and associate value container data types. So within this single value container data types, all these particular things which are going to come in, that is the list and the tuples which are going to have, that is the single values that they are going to be get stored. And whenever you are accessing, you are going to make use of either the for loop or while loop you are going to use, and you are going to access that particular element. So here is a mapping data type associating keys. So here you are the dictionary, whenever you are assigning the particular values, how you are going to assign those particular values within the dictionaries? Keys colon value. It consists of keys colon values. It's also is of unordered but indexed by keys. So here it is also set is of unordered, and dictionary is also is of unordered, but here you are going to index by its keys. So keys are going to be get indexed. Whatever keys which are going to be present, that is key 1, key 2, key 3, key 4 values are going to be get indexed with that one. So that's the definition that you are going to give for the container data type of dictionary. Dictionary is a mapping type associating keys to values, that is unordered and indexed by the keys, right? So these are the definitions that you are going to give for the 4 container data types which are going to use in Python programming. They are going to also called as built-in containers. So in Python, any doubts or any clarification till now?
No, sir.
Wrong. Okay, right. Next. Now let's see. So actually the size of the container depends on the number of elements or the objects that it contains. Size actually it's going to be get vary from the container to container type of data to container type of data types which are going to use. Now what are the characteristics of the container? So they normally speaking, there you are having three characteristics of the container. One is access, another one is storage, and third one is traversal. So these are the 3 characteristics of the container. So what is meant by accessing? As I already mentioned to you, the elements, data items are going to be get stored in the particular container data types. Either that particular elements may be stored within the list, or elements stored within the tuple, elements stored within the sets, elements stored within the dictionaries. So right, So elements which are stored in list will be of mutable, and elements stored within the container data types, or within the, I'm not allowing 76. So the next one is that is which you are going to use in case of that is tuple is of immutable, and set is unordered, and key, that is dictionary, is of unordered and weight represented with key. Just elements are going to be get stored within that particular container data type. Then you are going to access it. Accessing is nothing but the way of accessing the objects in that particular container. So that particular elements which are present within that particular container, if you are going to take in case of list and tuple, how you are going to access it? Accessed by the index values. So they are going to be accessed by its index values. So as it has been already mentioned to you, here it is going to be indexed by the integers. You are going to access by their index values. List of 0, whatever elements that are going to be get stored within the index 0, they are going to be get access. List of 1, list of 2, list of 3, so on and so forth. List of n-1 elements with are, whenever you are accessing the elements, they are going to be accessed with the help of their index values. So even in case of tuple, you are going to access it by its index value. In case of sets, how you are going to access it? By performing the set of operations. By performing the set operation, you are going to access it. In case of dictionary, it's also going to be accessed by the index keys. By the help of keys, that particular values are going to be get accessed, right? So the way of accessing the objects of the container, example, if you are going to take, so the arrays access. So here we are not going to use in case of Python programming, you are not going to use arrays. We are going to use a list tuples, which are accessed by using their index values. So this can be, so in case of stack, so stacks and the queues are the other types of data structures, linear type of data structure. In case of stacks, you are going to access the elements by using LIFO, that is lost in first out. Whatever element which have been entered into the stack lost, they are going to be get accessed first. In case of queue, so the elements which will be accessed, you are going to study in detail when you are going to study about the data structures by using Python programming, I think in third semester, I think so. So next semester you are having PPS with C language, and third semester you are having data structures by using Python. Right. So here the accessing is nothing but whatever elements that you have been stored within that particular container, and you are going to access by making use of with the help of index or with the help of operations. We are going to access that particular elements. Storage, how we are going to store, the way of storing the objects within that particular container. So normally speaking, that they are going to be get stored. So either by making use of sequential fashion or linear or non-linear fashion. So this based on the storage itself, data structures have been classified into two types, that is linear type of data structures and non-linear type of data structures. How we are going to store that particular elements is going to be called as a storage. So if you are in all the cases that you are going to be get stored in sequence, either you are going to take the container data type of for first one, that is the list, or in case of tuple, or in case of sets or the dictionaries, they are going to be get stored in sequence. The way that we are going to store that particular objects within the container is going to be called as storage. Then what is the another characteristic of the container is traversal. What is meant by traversal? Traversal means visiting the elements which are present within that particular container at least once. At least once is known as a traversal. You can visit more than once also. If we are going to visit all the elements which are, or the data items which are present within that particular container data types, if you are going to visit that particular elements at least once, then it is going to be called as a traversal. So the way of traversing the objects, that means visiting of that particular objects within that particular container is going to be called as traversal. So these are the three characteristics of the containers. So access, storage, and the traversals, right? Any doubts or any clarification? Next, how you are going to implement. So what are the different implementation of these container data types? How you are going to implement this particular container data types? As you are aware, so you are having four types of container data types. So how it is going to be get implemented? Creating an empty container. You can create an empty list. So empty list. We are going to give the list name and square bracket. If I are mentioning list name and square bracket, it implies that it consists of no elements which are present within that particular list. We are going to create an empty container, and then you will be, that is creation, implementation of the container. You are going to make use of the help of creating, then insert, delete all, access, then access the number of objects. So these are the various implementation of the containers. We are going to make use of, that is creating an empty container, creating an empty list, or creating an empty tuple, that you are going to create that particular containers empty. Then you are going to insert the objects into the container. So you are going to insert the objects, object 1, object 2, object 3, object 4, so on and so forth. The n number of objects are going to be get inserted within that particular container data type. And if you want to delete that particular objects, you are going to delete the objects from the container, delete objects from the container, and delete all objects from the container, delete all the elements which are present within the list, deleting all the elements which are present within the list. So deleting all the elements which are present within set dictionaries. So you are going to delete. So clear that particular containers. Then you are going to access, which you already studied, accessing the objects which are going to be done with the help of, that is with index and the operations which will be performing. Next that you will be having, that is accessing the number of objects, that is to count. So how many number of objects which are present within that particular list or set or the container are going to be get measured. These are the implementation of the containers, right? So you have seen this. Right? Now let's see one by one. So all these four data containers and how you are going to store the elements within that particular data containers, and what are the various operations which are going to be get performed on that particular data containers, and how we are going to make use of methods which are present within that particular containers, and the comprehensions, how we are going to do the comprehension. These are the four things which are going to cover in case of all the different data types. All right, I think it has been completed time 10:20. We'll continue in the next class with lists and how we are going to access that particular elements within the list, and how we are going to update the elements, and how we are going to nest, cloning, and different operations which are going to be get performed in that. See in the next class. Likita,
Sir,
have you given the numbers?
yes, sir. Absentees are
1 minute.
66,
Mm,
69,
mm,
74,
mm,
75,
mm,
76,
mm,
94,
mm,
98,
mm.
B7.
So absentees are 66, 69, 74, 75, 76, B 94, 98, B7. So any doubt till now? Any clarifications? Nobody is answering. Not understood?
No doubt, sir.
No doubt, Vinisha. Okay, right. Anybody else? Having any doubts? Okay, right. We'll stop here. I'll continue day after tomorrow.